Good morning, lovely people. How are you all doing today? I really hope you are well, happy, healthy, all of that. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Anyway, never mind that. I've got quite a busy day on today. Again, it's another one of these I'm just looking at my pin board. I've got a list down here on my desk. It's another itty bitty scrappy day. All sorts of loose ends. About, a month and a bit ago, I made a great big long list of everything and anything that needed doing that wasn't to do with work, i.e. making videos or sewing or my shop. So anything to do with the house, selling and buying, but also just, life stuff that has got, that's been neglected or that I need to look into. So this is a huge long list, and I'm just looking up there now, there are more black lines through jobs accomplished than there are jobs left to do. Hurrah! There's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm doing a couple of the jobs later today, which I'll show you when I'm going. Anyway, the point is, this morning I'm going to just dash out. I've got some errands to run, boots, pick up a prescription, charity shop. I've got one small bag of bits to take, and I really think now that's the last of anything that I need to take to the charity shop, the last of anything to get rid of. The only exception would be possibly between now and moving. We're into reading season again. A couple of books to show you later. Yeah, because it's reading season, between now and the time I move, I will do one of three things with any of the books I read. I will either keep them because they're treasures, put them into my shop because I think one of you might like them, or they'll go to the charity shop. So that can be a separate little pile, but otherwise I think, touch wood, hope I haven't jinxed myself, I think that really is it now with stuff to go to the charity shop. I can't thin things out anymore. I'm down to my needs now. I've got my needs met. What else? Oh, and then, this is the big part, I need to get a wriggle on actually. Then I've got a meeting to go to with my freeholder, so the person who owns the land that this building sits on, because there's a form that needs filling in for me for selling here. And he hasn't got a clue because I manage everything. However, there are some bits of the form that I need to get his signature on it anyway. So he got in touch with me in a panic saying, your solicitor has sent this form to me. I don't know what to do. And I said, look, fine, I'll fill the form in with you. Obviously, because he's got to sign it, I don't want to just take it off him, fill it in. I want him to understand what he's putting his signature to. So I'll go and do that in a minute. I've checked out, I've pre-armed myself I've looked at that form online. I had my solicitor send me a copy so I know what it's about. So there are bits and bobs of information that I'll need to put in there. So I've got that written down so I can take that with me today. So hopefully that will go smoothly. I can get back home and carry on with this list. And as a heads up, in the list this afternoon, it includes a violin, a strimmer, and a cookbook. Right, I'm off out. See you shortly. Well, in my time, I don't know how long this is all going to take. Hopefully not too long, but I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. All done. Oh, hang on, we haven't got the lights on. Look at the... We had a little bit of... I'm just going to put the light on. We had a tiny bit of sunshine this morning. Excuse my pile of washing up that you can now see. A tiny bit of sunshine this morning, which was so lovely. It's rare at the moment, so when it happens, stand with your face to it. Okay, so I've done my drop off. Oh, and the other thing I forgot before I went out this morning to mention was I was actually also on the hunt for a parcel because I was due my delivery, my Holland and Barrett delivery. And about 5 o'clock yesterday, I had an email to say, your parcel has been delivered. And I thought, well, it can't have been because it wouldn't fit through through the letterbox, and no one has buzzed on my door. So I went downstairs, and sure enough, there was nothing on the front door mat. So I was thinking, well, oh, maybe they've left it at the shop. Anyway, so I've called in at the shop as well to say, has the parcel been left here? And they said, no. So I hope it's not going to be another blooming incident of me having issues with an internet order being delivered. Anyway, I am so glad that that meeting with the freeholder, that paperwork, oh my God, I'm so glad that's out of the way for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, he's a really lovely guy, and I get on fine with him, you know, just sort of in the day-to-day and passing, but we've got a bit of a personality clash when it comes to this sort of thing. I'm very practical, right, let's get on with it, what do we need to do, let's just do it. And he's a bit of a flapper and a panicker. My solicitor had sent the form to him to fill in and then send back to her. But he thought, oh, you know, what's happening? One of the flats is being sold. No, I need to know. He feels like he needs to know everyone's business. He doesn't. But anyway, the long and the short of it is, he's now gone and engaged a solicitor. Thank goodness the solicitor hasn't done any work at the moment. He's engaged a solicitor because he wants to check everything out. And the solicitor's upfront fee was going to be £375, which the solicitor would send to my solicitor, so my solicitor could charge me. So I was explaining to this guy, the freeholder, you don't need a solicitor. This has nothing to do with you. Please do not use a solicitor and then bill me for it. This is crazy. Stop. Just stop. All this form is for verification that I have paid my ground rent, that I've paid my service charge, that I've paid my buildings insurance share, and that I haven't breached any of the terms of the lease while I've lived here. That's all it is. They're checking out me. They're checking that I've been a good girl. It's nothing to do with you. Anyway, God, it took ages to get the form done because he is flapping, and right at the end, I just took the paperwork, I grabbed it and I said, right, great, really happy, thank you so much for your time. I'll get this sent to my solicitor now. You don't need to worry about anything now at all. You don't need to talk to your solicitor. So hopefully that's the end of creating an extraneous, totally unnecessary bill for me. Can you imagine if I got a bill for £900 I said, what's this for? Oh, the freeholder wanted to check out your form. No. Anyway. All my errands are done. Oh, so the parcel I haven't found the parcel, so I'm going to go online in a second, back to the company to say the parcel was not delivered. I do not have the parcel. Where is my parcel? And other stuff. Right, but in the meantime, right, what's next on the list? Oh yes, violin. Let's go to the front room and I'll explain about, I need light for this, the sun's going, I need to take some photographs. I'll explain in the other room. Come on. Right, I need to get behind the sofa. Oh, dusty. Opla. I've got something stashed that I'm going to unstash. Right, watch the paintwork, Vivi. Watch the sofa, watch the paintwork. My strimmer, from my gardening days, I'll give it a bit of it's dusty, I'll give it a bit of a clean. Oh, filthy girl, I brought it home dirty. Where are you? You're there. Right, let me just, it's grubby, let me set it down a sec and explain. Oh, I'm coming behind you. feel like I need a moment to sit and just kind of be a bit calm. That I think that meeting has fried my brain a bit. Anyway, the reason I'm getting this strimmer out today and this other item, the strimmer, when I gave up the garden, when I handed the allotment back to the society at the end of March, although in truth I was backwards and forwards right into the summer in terms of emptying the shed and harvesting lavender, etc, etc, but essentially when the strimmer came home, I brought the strimmer home with me like a lot of my other tools, because I didn't know where I was moving to at that stage and I didn't know what kind of garden I was going to get. I was determined to get a garden of some sort, but I didn't know what it would look like. And the fact is, my new little garden, all being well, doesn't have any grass. Yay, why waste space? You know, it's a really small garden. I'm not going to waste space on having any grass. Any space there is for growing is going to be growing flowers and some veggies, hopefully. So I'm going to get the strimmer photographed today because it was fairly new. It's about not quite 2 years old, but actually, if you think about it, I haven't used it since February, so it's kind of almost like it's only a year old. It's got a brand new reel of thread in there, which I think each reel of thread, the string, costs a tenner. It's our Paul, I'll answer that in a second. Yeah, each spool costs about 10 quid. It's got a brand new spool in it. So what I'm going to do is give it a bit of a clean up now, photograph it and see if I can sell it locally, just, you know, just a few quid. And then if I try to sell it and I can't, you know, then I'll see if I can try to give it away. I mean, you know, it's about 100 quid to buy. Anyway, so that's one thing, but then the other thing is this old violin. I told you I'm right down now to the nitty gritty, the last few bits and bobs. It's lacking a few strings, bless it. Yeah, it's really seen better days, but the fact is I don't really know anything about it. I don't know in terms of value. I found it in and the case won't even close properly. I found it in a junk shop years ago. I mean, years and years and years ago, when I was a teenager still. I've probably had it for about 40 years. And when I found it, I thought, well, the idea was, I thought it would be lovely to learn to play, get the instrument, you know, restrung, conditioned, all that sort of thing, and learn to play. But it's just never happened. Time, one thing, but also the expense of lessons. And yeah, I know you can try to teach yourself, but I've just always filled my life up with other things. It's not like I've not had a life where I've sat idle. I don't sit idle much. Anyway, so I thought, look, this is ridiculous. I'm moving and I'm going to be moving this violin again. How many times have I moved it? 13, 14 times. Let's get rid of it. But because I don't know anything about it, I have found online a place where I can send photographs and give them some details, and they can hopefully give me a valuation over the internet. They say, you know, valuation for insurance, probate, etc, etc. I don't expect it. The fact is, let's say it's worth, I think it's worth anything less than 100 quid, I will give it away. I'll try and find a charity that reconditions instruments to give to kids who can't afford their own instrument. But I will definitely, I want to get rid of it, and hopefully before I move. So that's why I was mentioning a second ago about the light. The light is, it's gone really, really cloudy, but I think there's enough light for me to just photograph it in the window. That will be a good job done. And do you remember I was saying about, I was waiting in a previous video for a gizmo to do with photographing. This is it. Little thing, it looks like a lipstick, what's it? USB USB stick, is that what you call it? I think it's called a USB, but it's not quite that. It's got that kind of end to it, just with the dust cap, but there's this little slot in the side. So my camera, you can see it's one of the old-fashioned kind of larger card, it just slots in the side like that, and then this bump into the side of the computer. Job's a good one. Makes life so much easier, because I think, as I was mentioning, this camera that I'm talking to you on, it can't really cope in close up. About a foot away is about as much as it likes. Any closer it doesn't like it. So that's why I use this for my shop photos. So I'm so glad that the previous one that I ordered, after a month it hadn't shown up, so I eventually got a refund. And this little gizmo, I think it was about £7.50, just in case anyone else needs this sort of thing. There's another little slot in the side as well that will take the micro cards, but I don't need that, because that's what the computer's got. It's got a micro card slot, and that's where the whole issue arose from. It's like, I can't use my camera anymore. Right, let me get my photos done whilst I've got a light, and then reconvene. I want to tell you about a couple of books. One that I've just got, and I've been after it for so long. Can't wait to share it with you. Good, that's photos done. So what I haven't caught you up on is, after my Swedish death cleaning episode, and I had all my tools and bits and bobs here, I had a really good sort out of all that, so now everything's put away and tidy. I've been able to have a good clean up, and also now prepare for sewing. It might not look it, but this is hundreds and hundreds of squares, because each pattern there are 4 or 5 at least squares cut in each pattern. Well, apart from the odd 1 or 2 where I've only got one scrap of a pattern, but yeah, masses and masses and masses. Dark navies. I've done a few more dark navies this year, and I think they're going to be lovely. Or not dark navies, but navies. I think they're going to be gorgeous. Some more navies, but with a bit of colour, going into a sort of a turquoisey blues, and then more into sort of baby blue and a sort of muted bird's egg blue, and then some sort of neutralish but brights in terms of pinks and yellows, pinks, a bunch of neutrals. Actually, they're underneath. Are they under that? Where have I put my neutrals? Anyway, some yellows. And then at the far end, greens. Oh, and some more blues. That's some more Liberty on the end. So yeah, that's been a really good job done. I haven't cut any of the backs yet, but I think what I'm going to focus on is get all these itty bitty jobs tied up, hopefully in the next couple of days, so that then I can just focus, get focusing back on sewing again. I get all the tops paired up. So at the moment I haven't decided on the designs, apart from, did I put them here? Because these were all little odd bits. Actually, I have to bring them over. I'll bring them over. I'll spread them out on the bed to show you on my quilt. But I think this is going to be a lovely not pairing, but grouping. Hang on, got to move it around a bit. I need to press all my fabrics as well. So that's going to be one little grouping. Oh, lovely. I love that little tiny bit of purple coming through. I don't get much purple in fabric, so it's really nice to have that. Light isn't doing me any favours today. Anyway, so that's one little grouping. So you can imagine it's going to be an all-day job with this lot. Absolutely an all-day job to work out all my groupings. So 4 squares for each front. And then I can start sewing, and once all the fronts are sewn, then I can start thinking about cutting the backs, which will mean raiding the stash. Raiding the stash for backs. Marvellous. It's been a bit of a hectic day so far. I know it probably doesn't come across that way in videos because you don't see everything, but I feel like I'm getting a headache, which is really annoying. So yeah, I'm going to probably keep this shorter than usual and than I had intended. But yeah, I think just running around and just little bits of stress sneaking in here and there and dealing with that paperwork. This is just, oh, so I think it would be provident to maybe take a paracetamol, lie down for an hour and then get up and carry on. But there are so one of the books I've just finished reading, I want to give it some better thought and attention than I think I can at the moment while my head is starting to hurt a bit. So we'll come to that another day. So I finished that yesterday. Is it yesterday? Yeah. And started my next book. And I think the fact that I'm 146 pages in, started this last night, tells you what a lovely, easy, fun read it is. The Farmer's Wife. I've actually picked up another copy. It's in my shop there if anyone fancies it. This will also go into my shop. I'll put that one down a second, it's heavy. So I'd heard about this quite some time ago and I was delighted to... I found a copy a few weeks ago to put in the shop, put it in, and I thought, oh, I might have to have a read of that. And then I found another copy, so I thought, yay, I will have a read. So the author is Helen Rebanks, and the surname may sound familiar to some of you. Books I've talked about before by James Rebanks. There are two of his I've read. I think he's only done two. One is called English Pastoral, and the other one is called, I think very simply, The Shepherd's Life. James Rebanks, that's how the surname is spelt. Beautifully warm books about his life as a hill shepherd in the Lake District and about sort of farming in general in the UK. Gorgeous, chatty, sitting in a pub with your mate kind of feeling in the books. This is his missus. Although, of course, she's an entity all of her own and in her own right. But, oh my goodness, what a lovely book. It is so... It's incredibly normal. It's just normal life, but it feels so warm and cosy. It's a really warm and cosy read. So it's not just her life as a farmer's wife now, but it's her, she's kind of going back to her childhood because she grew up on a farm a few miles away from James's family's farms. So it's her sort of childhood growing up on the farm and sort of trying to spread her wings a bit in her late teens and, you know, going to uni and all that, and then meeting James and their little love story. It's gorgeous. So I didn't mean to say little love story. It's a big love story. The birth of their first child, the loss through miscarriage of their first baby. It's incredibly, you know, there are parts of it that are so moving and touching, and there are parts of it which were a bit close to the... Her relationship with her mum ain't great, and it sort of reminds me of mine with mine, and that was kind of tough to read. But for the most part, yeah, it's easy breezy, warm and lovely. And what I really enjoy is that about a third of the book, so I'm about halfway through the book, and the last third or so is recipes. So they're all, the recipes are all at the back of the book, but they're referenced. Okay, so you see, we're having a story, and then there'll be a reference to, there's homemade hot chocolate, and gives you the recipe page. Hot chocolate's not really a recipe, but you get the idea. I'm just trying to find another one. Basic pizza dough. So as she's telling her story, and she loves food, she loves cooking, she loves the kitchen, and that sort of, you know, the creativity of the kitchen, but also it being the heart of the home, the centre of the family. She obviously adores it and loves experimenting. So it's fun following her journey from her childhood as she's learning a few new recipes, and then she starts to be given recipes from, like, say, her granny. We've just had what was Granny's, some cake recipes from Granny. Because while James goes off to Oxford University, they live in Oxford together, and she's looking for work and struggling to find work. I can't find Granny's cake recipes now. Almond slice, lemon drizzle and gingerbread. What are some of the others? Yeah, she ends up baking cakes to sell to a cafe, for the cafe to then sell. Really charming, lovely book, lovely recipes. I think if you are... I mean, who doesn't love the kitchen? I don't mean... that's not a very good way to express it. If we imagine that sort of... None of us have got it, but okay, you know, like in All Creatures Great and Small, the TV show where they gather at the kitchen table, and it's very in the kitchen rather than the dining room. So when they're at the kitchen table, breakfast, for example, it's that sense of, it's informal, everybody is just being themselves, it's noisy, it's rambunctious, food being passed this way and that, laughter, chat, tears. That idea of the kitchen table being the heart of the home, and that cooking and feeding your family is an act of love. If you kind of buy into anything like that, I think you would love it. I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think, like I said, I stayed up quite late last night. I meant to put it down at midnight. I went to bed about, I can't remember what time last night, 9:30 to read. About midnight I thought, let's see if I can go to sleep earlier tonight. No, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So I think I might finish it tonight. Lovely, highly recommend it. And on the subject of food, sorry, let me just flash it one more time so you get the details. The Farmer's Wife, dust, Helen Rebanks. That's dust is just kicked up because I've moved the sofa. And then this is a book I have been after for the longest time. I picked a copy up, I don't know, 5 or so years ago when I first started having my little shop. I picked a copy up, put it in the shop, way underpriced. And afterwards I was kicking myself thinking, I should have had that for me. Haven't seen it. I've been looking out for it for all these years. Occasionally I have a look online and it's ferociously expensive. And there are some people selling it for 35 quid. I'm not going to pay 35 quid for a cookbook. It's a cookbook. It is. So I found this one recently for £8, which is a lot of money. I was going to say it's a lot of money for a book. It's still cheaper than a new book. What I mean is, for a second-hand book from me, 8 quid, it's quite expensive. But I knew when I saw it for 8 quid, I thought, I have never seen it that low in price since that one I bought for my shop about 6 years ago. I found a copy 6 years ago for, I think I found it for £3 and I sold it in my shop for 5 quid. Anyway, the book is, it needs a drum roll now, doesn't it? I've built it up so much. God, my head is starting to pound. It is Elizabeth Leward's European Peasant Cookery. It's a chunky wonky. And the reason I've been after this for so long is she's such a fantastic writer. Elizabeth Leward, brilliant, brilliant cookery writer. She's sort of, in a way, sort of like Elizabeth David. You get stories behind the ingredients. It's not just a collection of recipes. There's a lot of prose writing as well. So you could take this to bed with you and read it as a book, as in, as a work of literature almost. The reason I've been after it, the reason I'm going to put it down, it's a chunky monkey. Well, I mean, it's probably obvious, isn't it, why I want it? Peasant cookery. And this is cookery, and it's all over Europe. So what I love is, as you go through, you'll get in brackets next to the recipe, you'll get the country. So there we go, Scotland, Norway, Denmark, Holland, Spain, Catalonia, Italy, Denmark, Italy, Wales, Northern France, England, clotted cream, that's England, Germany, So it's the whole of Europe from the far north to the south, east and west. The whole it's not the idea of, but peasant cookery, it's all about what ingredients are available locally, what can I grow in my back garden, what is my neighbour growing in their back garden, can we swap? So it's very much about local produce in season, and therefore produce that's cheap and plentiful. Peasant cookery is all about eating really, really well, heartily, because if you are a peasant, you're probably going to be working long hours and working hard, probably outside. But eating really hearty, nutritious, filling food, but that's ultimately really frugal. Because you've grown it yourself, because your neighbour has grown it, because it's in abundance wild if you go and forage for it, etc. So you can see how that completely fits with how I like to eat. I like to eat seasonally, I like to eat the things that I've grown. So I thought, I've been after it for years. I'm really glad I've got it. It'll be fun to dive into, because my diet is very Mediterranean in so much as, olive oil, tomatoes, courgettes, all those lovely veggies I grow in the garden. And so it's funny recently to have to have eaten swede and turnip, which are more of a North European vegetable. And I've mentioned before sort of that thing of in the north we have butter. I don't mean in the north of the UK, but Northern Europe it's butter because we have cows, because cows graze on grass, because we get lots of rain. In the south, in the Mediterranean, there's less grass because there's less rain, so we don't have the cows producing all that milk. So to make butter, so we swap to olive oil, and cheeses tend to be goat cheeses because goats can manage on less than cows, for example. So those differences in terms of our climate differences through Europe make a difference to what we grow, and therefore they make a difference to what we eat. So it'll be fun for me to have a look at some of the more northern recipes for a change, and just slightly move away from the Mediterranean for a bit, maybe. I don't know, I doubt it. In terms of chapters, like I say, it's a really chunky book, so for anyone who's interested in getting this for themselves, I mean, like I said, I've seen it online, 35 quid. I ain't paying that. There are quite a few chapters on the various animal products, so fish, game, poultry, and then pork, lamb, mutton, beef, reindeer. Told you it's European, so there's reindeer recipes. But then the majority of the book then moves on to beans, lentils, rice, pulses and grains, pasta, savoury puddings, pastries, pies and dumplings, potato dishes, a whole chapter just on potato dishes, chapter just for vegetables, that's a big chapter, herbs and fungi, olives and olive oil, eggs, dairy and cheese, breads and yeasted pastries. Something that I don't really do much, but I might when I move house, depending on how the oven is sweet pies, tarts, pudding and pancakes. I used to do quite a lot of baking in terms of tarts and puddingy type things, but my oven is a bit naughty here, and pies and savoury pies, so things like tarte au citron and clafoutis, ooh, but this one, it likes to burn stuff. So it put me off baking. So when I move, maybe I'll start doing some more tarts and things. And then finally, the final chapter is fruits, nuts and flowers. So an absolute, you could spend a lifetime trying to get through the recipes in this book, but I will dive in and pick and even before trying to make anything, I wonder if, so for instance, I bet fasolada is in here. Let me just go to flatbread, fish, faggots, I can't see fasolada. Maybe it's under beans and bean stew. Beans stew, page 222. Let's see if it's brackets, fasolada. Oh no, that's bean stew with ham. I'm not going to have that. That's from Spain. Anyway, well, I'm going to start diving in. Peas pudding from England. Cassoulet, various cassoulet. Of course, I can adapt a recipe. You know, if it's if I like the look of it, but it's got Tuscan bean soup, of course, we're probably all very familiar with. Yeah, if it's got a meat product in there, I can just take the meat product out. Anyway, yes, delighted to have that. And as I was reading Helen's book, I was thinking, I wonder if that's the kind of book that I might eventually one day get around to writing. I'd love to write, and maybe that's what it would be. It would be a book with recipes interspersed, and you know, the story behind the recipe. Like, I learned to make fasolada halfway up a Greek mountain with an old yaya, a Greek granny, yaya, teaching me to. Anyway, who knows, one day, maybe once I've retired and I've actually got a bit of time each day, I can start to sit down and write a little bit more. That's a long way off still. That's another 10 years off. For now, these two are keeping me company and they're delicious. Right, I need to nurse this head. Lie horizontal for an hour. Hope it goes away so I can get on with whatever the next jobs are. It'll soon be time to, yeah, sewing. Sewing is the next job. Actually, the next job right now is I'm going to go to my pin board, and this is my moment of my little treat reward thing for myself. The reward is I get to cross off a couple more things on the pin board today. Yay! And that list is, it's getting smaller and smaller. And my head is getting bangier and bangier. All right, lovelies, I will see you again really soon. Until then, please look after yourselves. Happy cooking, happy, you know, sharing your heart in the kitchen with the people you love by cooking for them. Until the next one, cheerio.